All right, let's talk about the mesmerizing horror masterpiece, Saint Maud. This movie is about Maud, a newly devout hospice nurse who becomes obsessed with saving her dying patient's soul, but sinister forces and her own sinful past threaten to put an end to her holy calling. If you saw my top 10 of 2021, you know I'm pretty high on this movie. I had it at my number 2 spot, and this was like the fourth time I've seen the movie now, and I still love it. It would still be my number 2 on that list, and let's get into it. My only little gripes with the movie, there's nothing majorly wrong with the movie, but it is a tad slow in the first act, but after that, it really picks up for me. I think it was too slow, but I can see a lot of people thinking this is just a slow burn where not a lot happens until the last like 5-10 minutes. It's a slow build up to that climax, but I'm fully invested. I enjoy the journey there, but it is a tad slow. And I thought that there was just one scene that they could have taken out. It's a scene where Maud and this other nurse are on a bench talking to each other. It's like in the third act, and I feel like you could have just taken that scene out to kind of tighten the pace a bit because they had a good momentum going, and then that scene happened, and then it got going again right after that. And I just feel like you could have done without that little scene. Getting into what I like about the movie is I love the story. It's a very unique story with many themes, and it's just a very tragic character study. Maud is a very lonely, depressed girl who is just delusional and thinks that she's saving this woman's soul. She's socially awkward. She does not know how to communicate with other people, and she keeps going back to God, trying to not feel so alone, and asking for guidance, and she's just trying to be a very good person to atone for sins in her past. They hint at her living kind of a sinful life before, and then the movie opens up with her doing something that just really scarred her and has clearly made her snap. There's a traumatic event that is at the very beginning, and it's what puts her on this path to her own destruction. Really, like it makes her like obviously schizophrenic. I'm thinking there's some schizophrenia going on here. She's seeing and hearing things that aren't really happening. That's how I view the movie. It could be up for interpretation at the end. If you want to see it supernatural, you can choose to do that. But to me, this is all psychological. This is a movie where it just puts you in her shoes, her nail filled shoes, and you're just seeing the world as she sees it. And it's a pretty fucked up, scary world. And this is a slow burn, artsy horror movie that isn't like pretentious. It's not like the movie I reviewed recently, Men, where it's just a bunch of like symbolic things being thrown at the screen where there's no exposition and you can't even make sense of what's happening. It's not a confusing movie like Men, and it doesn't feel so pretentious and trying to be so clever. It's not like that at all. I found the performances by the two lead actresses in this movie, especially Morfydd Clark. Morfydd, I'm not sure how you would pronounce it. At Morfydd. She's playing Maud. She had a small role in Crawl, and like as the sister at the very beginning. I haven't seen anything else she's done, but in this movie she is phenomenal, and the woman playing Amanda does a fantastic job as well. And I love their dynamic and just how polar opposite they are. Like she is an atheist, and Maud is clearly like trying to be like a diehard religious, Christian trying to save this atheist soul. I just think the writing's pretty strong, and the characters are very well written. The direction is fantastic. There's some really cool imagery, artsy shots, with like upside down shots and like spiraling shots, symbolic, shots that symbolize her life like spiraling out of control and her life's upside down. Like it's got some artsy shots in here, and I like the way it's filmed, and the cinematography, the use of shadows, the atmosphere, and I really like the score of the movie also, the pulsing, droning sound at times. It just is pretty eerie. This film uses CGI a little bit when certain things happen towards the end, and like Maud's face when she's like having her godgasms, her like her happy feelings that she gets from God when she does something good. She's basically like she sounds like she's having an orgasm. But her face seems to like be like you know contorting a bit, and it's CGI, but they don't like overuse it and it doesn't look terrible or anything, so it doesn't bother me. And when it becomes like a full blown horror film in the last act, when it starts to get violent, it's pretty intense, and it doesn't go like overboard. And I really like just the melancholy tone of the film. And the ending of this film, the very last shot, is fantastic. It's a very dark, messed up, indelible ending that I think I even put on my top 10 horror movie endings, or was in my honorable mentions when I did that list a few months back. I love the ending of this movie. The last second just says it all. If you were confused on what was happening exactly, the last second is so haunting, but it also is like, here's the answer. So, final thoughts. This is a terrific, one of a kind, psychological horror film, character study that builds beautifully to its unforgettable and disturbing climax, and has a captivating performance. Uh, Two captivating performances, but especially from Morfydd Clark. So when it comes to Saint Maud, I'm bumping it up from my last rating. I'm giving it 5 out of 5. All right, so the movie opens up with her having accidentally killed a patient, and the first thing she sees after that is the cockroach named Nancy in the credits at the end. The cockroach on the ceiling, I think, is supposed to be like a representation of God. Like that's how she sees God. So the cockroach is God guiding her around. Like even later on, you see the cockroach like going towards the wall, and then she walks up to the wall, and then she starts to hear God. So I think that's what the cockroach is supposed to be. They don't tell you, so I feel like it's up for interpretation. What do you think the cockroach is? Is it the devil? Or I would think it's God that's guiding her around. I like that the exercise equipment, the thing that Amanda was laying down on, was shaped like a cross, like the way she was laying down. It was almost like she was Jesus on a crucifix, obviously done on purpose. And so she tells Amanda that she hears God, and sometimes when she does something good, God gives her like this shiver, pulsing feeling, like basically gives her what I call a godgasm. She's getting an orgasm. I think I heard that in the commentary. I watched the commentary, and I think the director said that's what she called it. So I think that's where I got it. Godgasm. So yeah, she's basically feeling like orgasms every time she does something great throughout the film. She just keeps like moaning, and like her face contorts in one moment. And then Amanda says, "You're my savior." And boy, was that a mistake, because that seems to be what kicks off the rest of the film. What would happen if she never said that? Because she says, "You're my savior," she writes it down in the book, it makes her feel good after that. Like that's when she starts to feel that feeling for the first time in the movie. Right after she says, "You're my savior," you. I think they had a conversation about religion. She was talking about how like she didn't believe, and then Maud was talking to her about how there is a God and I hear him and blah blah blah, and then she's like, "Oh, you're my savior," like implying that I believe now. So then that makes Maud feel good, like holy shit, I just saved her soul, I converted her. And then she walks out of the room, and that's when she starts having that godgasm, and for saving her soul. And then she starts praying with Amanda, and Amanda starts pretending like she can feel it too. Big mistake. Maud discovers that Amanda is a lesbian. She has this younger girlfriend, Carol, and that is a no-no to Maud. She doesn't like that. She doesn't, believe in that lifestyle. It's a sin. So she's like, oh shit, I'm trying to save this woman's soul. So I gotta, tell Carol to fuck off. So, she goes up to Carol and is like, I don't believe this is a good time for you to be around. You just need to leave. And then she says this oddly specific comment about like, oh, you could have an 8-inch cock and I would still be telling you the same thing. Why didn't she just say, if you had a cock, I'd still be telling you this? She went with 8-inch, which I thought was a little weird. Very specific. And then she's purposely burning herself on the stove, punishing herself. And then she sees like water going down a drain, spiraling. And then we get a lot of that imagery later on. There's a lot of spiraling. And I'm not 100% sure what that's supposed to mean, but I would think it's just simply like her life kind of spiraling out of control, or her mission to save Amanda's soul is kind of spiraling out of control at this point, or it's just foreshadowing the spiraling, cloud above her at the very end. That's basically like the portal to heaven or whatever. So it's either like foreshadowing, or it's like, her life is spiraling out of control or whatever. So yeah, then she ends up slapping Amanda at her birthday party, getting fired. And then right after she slapped her, though, she started to feel pain in her gut. Like God was punishing her in that moment for doing such a bad thing. So now she's unemployable, alone, and she's picking at her scabs, further damaging her body, punishing herself. And then she starts to feel at this point that God has betrayed her. So she goes right back to her previous, lifestyle, her sinful past. She's going out to the bar. She looks at a guy from across the bar, and then it just hard cuts to her like jerking him off, and he like comes in 5 seconds. He's like, oh, sorry. And then it just awkwardly walks away. And then she like bumps into another dude and then starts fucking him, this really big guy. And we get this very just disturbing moment, and just it is shocking, and the sound design is very effective. She's having sex with this big dude, and then she starts like giving him CPR, and his chest just completely breaks and caves in, and that's what happened to the patient in the very beginning. So she's just like having like a flashback in that moment. And then he basically starts raping her. Like she's like not in the mood anymore because of what she just hallucinated, and she's like, no, and he's like, no, just let me finish. And then he's like fucking her still, and she's just sitting there like just taking it, not fighting back anymore. Like she's not enjoying it. It's a very awkward sex scene and disturbing one because of that chest caving in, and it's just very sad watching her like spiral out of control like this, and like trying to blend in and communicate with these people. There's people nearby, just laughing it up, and she's trying to like fit in, and she's like laughing with them as if she's like a part of their conversation, and they just look at her like, what the fuck are you laughing at? And then she calls like coworkers that she used, former coworkers, people that she used to work with, Joy. She got her number earlier in the movie, and she's calling her at the bar in the bathroom, pretending like she's with other friends, but she's like, Joy, hang out with me, and she just doesn't know how to communicate, and Joy blows her off, and she just feels so alone, and that's when she fucks that guy. So it's just like she feels so alone and depressed that she's willing to fuck anybody, and it's just very tragic character. And so then after that, we see more spiraling, like the beer, they're like spiraling, and then so yeah, this is when she realizes that she's fallen, and so she starts begging God for guidance. Oh, this is a fantastic scene when she is in the apartment later that night after having sex with that dude. She goes home, and she prays, and then she starts fucking levitating off the ground, and there's like fireworks going off. Such a beautiful and haunting scene. I love this scene. It's probably like the iconic moment from the film. That and the very end. And it's right after she's levitating that she sees the cockroach again, which I believe, is God. So she's starting to see God again. She's right back where she started at the beginning of the movie, at least. And so then she is punishing herself more for, I guess, having sex with that dude and jerking the guy off. This is her punishment. She has to walk around all day in shoes that have nails in them. She's stabbing her feet all damn day. That would be very painful. And then she sees the Roche again walking towards the end of the bedroom, and she walks towards the wall, and she starts to hear God's voice talking to her in Welsh, like her native language, which was interesting. And I liked the voice they went with for God, kind of creepy. And then she takes acetone and she's blessing it to go bless Amanda later on with it. So she goes and breaks into Amanda's house, and she's looking worse than before. She has like oxygen, tubes up her nose now that she didn't have before Maud got fired. And she is like trying to bless her with the water that she blessed herself. And Amanda just tells her, like, there is no God. It's just you and me here. You are just the loneliest girl I've ever met. And this just, really hurts Maud. And she starts to cry. And then she sees Amanda as a demon and then starts attacking her. And she's getting, like, thrown across the room. And Amanda's face is, like, contorting. And she sounds, like, demon-like. And then she just grabs a pair of scissors and starts stabbing the shit out of Amanda, thinking she's the devil. And then after she kills her, she's just like floating out of there. And she's like laughing and smiling, like looking up towards the heavens, like she just did some great, she just did God's work. Like, I defeated the demon and now I've earned my ticket to heaven, basically. Like she's just levitating out of there. And then it cuts to the next morning and she has angel wings now. She's earned them for killing that demon and goes to the beach, takes the acetone and starts pouring it all over herself. And we see the spiral above her in the clouds. And it's supposed to be like the light shining through, so it's like heaven that's above her, and to get there she has to kill herself. And so she's pouring all the shit on her, and then she takes the lighter that they were foreshadowing this moment earlier in the movie when she was constantly just lighting it. She lights it and just ignites, and then all the people around her who previously were like, no, don't do it, now they're like bowing down to her like she's God. They're like worshiping her, kneeling before her. And then all of a sudden her angel wings disappear, and now she's just in agony, like in flames, just a charred fucking mess, just screaming. It's the very last second. It's fucking awesome. I just thought that was a terrific way to end it. It just tells you, like, yeah, this is all in her mind. Here's what's really happening. She does not have angel wings. There is no heaven light above her. That woman was not a demon. She was just killing her because she didn't like what she was saying to her. And, she wanted to justify killing her by saying, well, she was a demon. That's why I killed her. And, yeah, so I just love that last second. It just explains it all for me. It tells me that it's all psychological. It's all in Maud's mind. She's just crazy. And, schizophrenic, and she's got something wrong with her. So those are my thoughts on Saint Maud. What are your thoughts on this movie? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, if you like what you've seen here, you can hit this like button and become a subscriber today just by clicking on my cartoon face in about 5 seconds. And remember, it's all an opinion. You don't need to get butthurt about it.